Now, social distancing from reality. That's the focus of tonight's angle. The left's rules, have you noticed this? They never seem to apply to them. Now, we've seen this play out with Governor Ralph Northam not wearing his mask at the beach, or Governor Whitmer's hubby traveling to their family cabin up north, or Governor Pritzker's family escaping from Illinois to that awful, dangerous state of Florida. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, she got her hair styled as she kept salons closed for everyone else in Chicago. But if you still wanted to give these blue state governors and mayors the benefit of the doubt on these COVID lockdowns, well, now you can disabuse yourself of that notion for good. In late April, Mayor de Blasio denounced Hasidic Jews who gathered for a funeral in Brooklyn, and he used the police to break it up.
The notion that people would gather in large numbers, and even if they didn't mean to, would spread a disease that will kill other members of the community is just unacceptable to me. If you saw anger and frustration, you're right. I spoke out of real distress that people's lives were in danger before my eyes, and I was not going to tolerate it.
So people's lives were in danger at the funeral, okay. But when throngs of looters roam the streets to smash and grab and push aside, or worse, anyone in their way, suddenly there's zero concern for public health, COVID, and the police, by de Blasio, are told to use a light touch.
Overwhelmingly peaceful protest. Protesters respecting the ground rules set by police, police doing exactly what they are so good at.
There's a small anarchist group that's been violent, and then there's a small criminal element that's been violent. But you're talking about an infinitesimal percentage compared to the overwhelming majority of the protesters who have been peaceful.
No COVID concerns. So, but if thousands of people show up in, let's move on to Charlotte, North Carolina, to march against police brutality, okay, they're welcomed, fine. So you're right to peacefully protest. But if thousands of RNC attendees want to rally in Charlotte 2 months from now, they're called irresponsible, dangerous, selfish.
The president's extremely irresponsible, bullying, and potentially deadly threat today in the middle of this deadly pandemic to move the Republican National Convention from Charlotte.
He wants, 20,000 people to gather in the arena there, packed, screaming, shouting on top of each other right in the midst of this pandemic. Is that what he's saying?
Have any of you seen the crowds in Raleigh and Charlotte, North Carolina? Well, if you want to open your restaurant's doors to customers, they're going to stop you, or they're going to send state inspectors, and they're going to have measuring tapes, and they're going to make sure that your salad bar is in order. But if you want to ransack a restaurant, they'll give you the green light. And if you want to go to church, they'll send cops out to harass you. But if you want to burn down the church, they'll basically look the other way or excuse it. If you want to protest the lockdowns at the state capitol, you're called a terrorist and a threat to public health and safety. But now, if you're marching in a crowd carrying a sign that says F Trump, you're organizing for change. No COVID problems there. And if you're thinking about, let's say, hitting the beach.
This virus doesn't take the weekends off. This virus doesn't go home because it's a beautiful sunny day around our coasts.
But apparently the virus has taken the entire week off, or it's just over altogether and they didn't bother telling us. The bottom line is that lockdowns and rules were good when they made your lives inconvenient and took away things that were essential to you. But suddenly, when the lockdown, all the rules interfered with achieving their political goals, they no longer mattered. So much for phases 1, 2, 3, and 4, paging Dr. Fauci. Well, this is all political in the end for Democrats, all of it. They want to stop President Trump and his supporters from having rallies or even a convention. Meanwhile, they applaud tens of thousands of people packed tightly into streets and parks to support their own efforts to defeat him. Isn't that a neat trick? Well, what about these protests? Peaceful protest, we've said this night after night. It's the hallmark of any free society. And we applaud peaceful protests. as we explained for months to left-wingers who tried to force us to stay home. But the left, their protests have become, and essentially right now, part of a religion that is essential that must be protected. But it's also become part social club. And the same geniuses who love to mock Baptists are out in the streets with their own rituals. Membership rules, they have punishment for heretics even. And a scene that looked like Jonestown meets Pilates, a bunch of rich white liberals gathered in Bethesda, Maryland, suburb of Washington, D.C., to repeat their almost religious mantras.
About racism, anti-blackness, or violence.
About racism, anti-blackness, or violence.
I will use my voice in the most uplifting way possible.
I will use my voice in the most uplifting way possible.
And do everything in my power to educate my community.
And do everything in my power to educate my community.
I will love my black neighbors the same as my white ones.
I will love my black neighbors the same as my white.
Now let's be clear. Everyone is infuriated, anyone with a shred of decency, about what happened to George Floyd. Everyone wants justice to be done. But those creepy rallies have nothing to do with George Floyd, at least for most of the people on the left. His tragedy is their excuse. Look, the folks you see yelling at cops on TV, a lot of the wealthy suburban kids, I guess they're tired of sitting home playing, video games or buying stuff on Amazon Prime. They're trying to check their privilege while checking their Apple Watches. The left wants everyone on their knees, not in prayer for racial healing or George Floyd, but in submission to their ever-growing list of demands. Today, they demand we defund the police.
Most people don't realize that only 5% of the arrests that happen in the country actually happen for violent crime. We don't need to fund policing in the way that we do. We have to shrink the role of the policing apparatus wholly.
Well, tomorrow they may demand abolishing prisons altogether, except for the people they don't like. Liberals used to celebrate the individual. I remember that. They encourage you to be your own true self. Free expression was celebrated. But now it's really bizarre because they're all about enforcing their own orthodoxy, their own conformity in speech and belief. You deviate from their ever-changing, moving goalposts, and they'll excommunicate you at once. They have no interest in debate. And who can blame them? They can't defend their lousy ideas or their hatred of America. And they have no idea how to make anyone's life better, really better. So they'd rather distract you with the latest 2-minute symbol or hate, or maybe some a cappella singing on YouTube, make everyone feel good for the moment. But in the end, it doesn't make anyone's life really better. Certainly doesn't put more money in your pocket. Today, they're trying to keep us trapped in a never-ending cycle of meaningless sloganeering and protest selfies. It's like eating junk food. It tastes good in the moment, but it's not going to make you stronger. If we had an honest media, they'd do more than just reacting to President Trump's tweets or his walk across the park to St. John Church. They'd be asking tough questions, like this. Vice President Biden, if you're such a champion of minorities, why do you oppose educational choice for disadvantaged families and schools? And if you knew, Mr. Biden, how to heal our racial divide, why didn't you and President Obama do it over the 8 years you were in the White House? Why didn't you fight against all those jobs being shipped overseas to China? Why did it take President Trump to pass criminal justice reform? Fortunately, the whole world hasn't yet become a giant student center. There are still grown-up people with real money making real bets on the future. And those people, the investors who drive our markets, they see a very different world from that scrawled on signs by English majors who know more about Pokemon than the founders of our country. Investors seem to be optimistic about who will win this battle of ideas. Even after a pandemic and after days of unrest, they're still betting on America. The Dow shot over 26,000 today. It's stunning. We're coming back. And that means more jobs for Americans of all races and creeds. And who would want to protest against that? And that's the angle. Now, speaking of twisting the data, the left is doing just that to fuel the narrative that police departments are inherently systemically racist. So what do the numbers actually tell us? According to a Washington Post database that tracks these numbers, police officers fatally shot 1,004 people in 2019. Of those, only 41 were unarmed. If you break those numbers down among race, you find 20 of the unarmed were white, while 10 were black. As long as we're looking at those numbers, according to the FBI, 89 police officers, 89, were killed in the line of duty last year.